What's up, everybody? This is Sleep Atomic, and we're reviewing The Mandalorian Chapter 3 The Sin. And in this third episode, we get further information about the Mandalorians and the Mandalorian we're following around. And as you do, being the environment, witnessing everything that's happening to them, this space opera about a Western immediately has you questioning the outcome of this little green guy. The head of the guild that had the Mandalorian sent out is even questioning the motivations of the people that paid him. Karga already has in mind that it's just some sort of extravagant like buy, since they bought some mercenaries to bring something back. That's very mysterious. He's just like, oh, I don't know if they're gonna eat it or like mount it on the wall. And in his mind, there's at least one person out there that's like this. I don't know if there was an example or not, but there's a very quick like, oh. Then even a few seconds later, it goes to the Mandalorian. Not sure to just say Mando or the Mandalorian, but he sees that the little green guy is taking the little knob off of one of his like levers or levers, if you will, and he goes, "That's not a toy." Instead of just silently taking it from him and setting him back in the little bassinet, he's fully acknowledging that this is like a little child. Then all of a sudden, you get the soldier vibe from the Mandalorian, like as he's walking, already integrating himself into something he completely was not intending, like walking a child through these back alleys. And by the time the little eye at the door scans the chip thing that lets him in without any trouble, you kind of see he's like, oh, this is me now, like me and green kid, green baby, which has you questioning whether or not if this is like happened before, if he's like put himself together or attached himself to something so quickly. I mean, they did like emergency bond or like trauma bond, some people say, where you go through something pretty like up or down, whichever way you started from, and then the opposite direction, and you overcome it together and just like match little like vital signs. If you picture that little like cardiograph thing, like with the line that like spikes up and down every time your heart beats, if you're connected to it, like you sync up for that trauma bond or emergency bond. At least I was wondering if that had happened, and that doesn't happen with him, seeing how he like also saved him from the mudhorn thing. Because especially later, like he's like fighting that guy because he's like almost supposed to, because like someone challenged him, and he's like, oh well, I gotta meet challengers head on after he gets the Beskar and brings it back to that armorer. But to me, it kind of just looks like they wanted to be a part of that speech that the armorer gives, like about the Mandalorians, about being hunter and prey at the same time. But that's just like me putting myself onto the characters, just, which is a little silly, but at least like there's like a little den mother vibe going there. You get a very short little ballad that's acting out while the armorers almost like stating their creed, and we get the very popular "This is the way," which I love for a bunch of reasons. But right now, I'm noticing that once they say like everyone resets, like the big guy's not fighting our Mandalorian with the silver helmet. Before they were like, oh, like he's hanging out with the Imperials. Like, what the heck? Yeah, that's Beskar, but we be doing something about them? And you learn that only one of the Mandalorians come up at a time, and then the people on the surface don't think there's even many Mandalorians. He's like, when he was getting the Beskar, it's like, oh, a Mandalorian is hard to find. He's basically saying good job without saying good job. And that's where our guy wonders what's happening to the kid and like shows concern when I guess it's not even a part of the mercenaries guild rules. It gives you a lot to think about, but not actually pay attention to. So I imagine for later you can just sit back and enjoy what's happening. Almost like the little Creed ballad explanation. They act out their little answer or question. Like, he's also wondering how many tracking fobs were sent out, but he gets a non answer again. But maybe realizing that this kid's like connected to Jedi, he might have got rid of some people helping the rebellion or the Jedis. Even though he's not a bad guy, really, but he's like kind of like neutral. You kind of like realize for him, like, oh, like he probably like got rid of some like good guys, like, and maybe even like some contingency people, but it kind of seems like they're like hard on times, and you're most likely, if you're the right kind of person, would draw the lines that they only sent him, but he's the Empire guy, so he wants to seem overpowering and like brooding, so he like made it a non-answer and made it seem like they could, but they probably aren't, seeing how dirty their stormtrooper armor is. You know, there's like a lot of like posturing, but it's only because of the climate and the environment, but not like weather-wise, like condition of what's happening around them and like what has happened and how people act there, how people want to act, and what everyone matches up and generally wants to have it be like. Again, going back to broadly describing the Western aspect, in my opinion, some of them are just like gunslinger movies, not a full Western. But after a cool, like, meditation sequence, or maybe like a loading sequence for the audience, you get to see the new armor, and then, like, with, in mind that they might have been helping the Jedi, you kind of, like, see all the people at the, bar, or whatever it is, the bounty hunters sit at. Almost seems like it ups the stakes a little bit, or maybe they're seeing if the Mandalorian's like cool or not. Because Grief Karga is like, they all had fobs. Like, you're the only one that like finished the job, dude. Kind of like a invisible hand thing, and like, or just like being the stranger in an area and a bar. And there's like an obscene amount of regulars that almost seem to all know each other. I did a similar theory in Andor I kind of spoke about, but and I had similar feelings about what happens in the Obi-Wan show, that they're like behind the scene invisible hand training some people, or more or less being the physical force that's guiding someone. But once they get on that track, they're like on it on their own for real, though. A bit obscure. I wouldn't say it's like incredibly popular to even notice, but I like bringing it up at least once a show. I'm sure they can all do certain things, but this guy's got the look or the feel that needs to get it all done like naturally and like effortlessly, so that they're there and like don't burn out. It's just a natural process or something they're already doing. Although in this case, it would seem more suitable if they were like the other Mandalorians. They've found another need to do something more normal looking to everyone else that's not Mandalorian. They don't wear the armor and like they keep I guess the creed to their crest, but they don't like full on like actively act it out or display it. They're all just like out there chopping it up. Like they full on like got what they needed from being a Mandalorian and like are just like on standby. Almost like for a full circle a few times around, like they're just living out the oh, this is a young man's game, but not even like a for real young person. Just like whoever needs to get that dip, it's there for them first. So they're like kind of like working the scene for them for it to exist. Kind of sounds like a bunch of insider stuff, but I'm sure you'd get it if you do, and you'll find yourself there eventually. I go on this little bit of a explanation because he also flashes some Beskar to our Mandalorian. Like he might not even have actually got paid because like that doesn't seem like it made sense. Just because like why didn't he just get friggin' money? Like is he just gonna hold on to that like it's money then sell it later? It seems like less an effort that he gave that to that person and they had this all act out. Just like, oh yeah, I like the chops on you, Mando. Like, I'm gonna indirectly pay you so you don't keep coming to bother me, and I'm good as well. But I want to see where this goes. You know what someone would do besides like create a mafia or something that had a bunch of resources, or like full on like was running a charity or and doing stuff like that. They made one really solid person for this group, real light on the made, and even like if you were to use directed. But while he's getting a new puck and refusing to go on a vacation or something relaxing like Grief Karga's wanting, he asks again, but to Grief Karga, what they were gonna do with the little green baby, but he also doesn't know. So guild rules and all. So before he leaves to his really long drive or flight to get his mind off of it, he fails doing that and goes back to the building and like stakes it out with the kind of like cool like helmet rifle little like infrared thing just to bluntly enjoy that. It like goes with the little scope on his rifle, and he did something with his helmet to like turn it on. So, and it also is like getting the sound from inside the building, which I thought was like way too neat. But like the next part, you pretty much have to watch. But the parts that you can mention is like the guy with the glasses that was insisting on the little green guy being alive was still protecting him, and there was a little conversation with the guy that hired the Mandalorian, was like trying to like just like get whatever from the baby like lethally, and he's like, no, we shouldn't do that, and he like saved him or protected him. And I guess his little rifle like tases people too. That's all the things I noted to myself. You could watch the infiltration like yourself. There's a moment where you get to see up close like his little flamethrower come out of his little gauntlet or bracer. There's just a lot of like upfront stuff like happening from here and pretty much till the end of the episode. You get to see him pull the wool over like four stormtroopers that got him surrounded uh, over their eyes uh, with the whistling birds that he got as an upgrade with his armor. But like outside after getting out of the building, with the surroundings being plentiful, I like how this speeder, there's the droid on there, and he's like concerned about getting shot and drives like it's like a taxi, and he's being held up to make him leave. It was just a nice little touch. I thought that deserved some attention. The droid unfortunately gets shot anyway, and makes that funny like scream. It also sounds like kind of like a whirling, like something's breaking. At this point, my theory for training the Mandalorian and trying to guide him is not really working out. But maybe Grief Karga is kind of like busy and like he's like bringing out all the ex candidates to weed them out. Like when all the tracking fobs started lighting up again. Even though I was like, they still have those? Like, they must be like a personal one that they like trade out or like have still. I was just wondering why they still had them, but I'm sure they have like a continual use, but they like have it trace whatever it is new that's for their bounty. Because he just kind of hands our Mandalorian one and just like he walks off with it, at least in the previous episode. And there's more of those like side like cool little costumes that the actors have for the different aliens while they're getting shot. There's like a Rodan, a Dathomite, and like just a cool like droid or like android guy. And some of the ones from the beginning episodes. Jumping back around, sometimes things don't work out, but you still have to deal with them, and you can't just eliminate it or get rid of them. And maybe you got these guys. I mean, yes, I'm reaching a little bit to have my theory work, but you know, it's working. I want it to be the background truth, like, so bad, like, but it's like one of the better shootouts in my opinion with the blasters. To go back to that, they have the cool spark effects for the explosions and just the blasters being shot. The blaster effects are especially awesome when the other Mandalorians show up. It has like finale vibes to it, but you know the story's gonna keep going because it's only the third episode. But the episode ends out with a nice salute from his co-Mandalorians and a little drop of a now ball toy to our little green guy into the distance, but better this time. But yeah, that was the episode. Like, thanks for being here with me for that one. Looks like they're kind of doing that 1, 2, 3 cool on the third episode. Or 1, 2, 3 action. And just because I noticed doesn't mean it's not working. And I like it. But this was Sleep Atomic, and I'm Alistair. And no one's told you yet, you look good. And it's great.